We're in the first project called Bike Sales. Task 1 tells us to remove the preliminary Q1 sales report from the database. Before we do that, let's go ahead and click the Enable Content if that's visible on your screen. And then over here on the right, we're going to go ahead and right-click this report, and then we're going to click Delete. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 2 wants us to create a one-to-many relationship between the item number field of the mountain bike catalog table and the mountain bike description field of the Q1 sales table. The join should return catalog records even if there is no related record in the Q1 sales table. And it tells us to accept all other defaults. To do that, we want to go to the Database Tools tab here at the top. We're going to go ahead and click Relationships. And then we're going to click Show Table. I'm going to go ahead and double click on mountain bike catalog and Q1 sales. And then we're going to go ahead and close. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag item number to mountain bike description, which brings up the Edit Relationships dialog box. I'm going to go ahead and click Join Type. And in the Join Properties, I want to select number 2. Include all records from mountain bike catalog and only those records from Q1 sales where the joined fields are equal. We'll go ahead and click OK. And we'll click Create. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 3 wants us to create a form named Orders with vertical navigation tabs on the left. It tells us that the mountain bike catalog form should appear on the upper vertical tab and the inventory form should appear on the lower vertical tab. We want to go to the Create tab here at the top. In the Forms group, we're going to click here on the navigation dropdown, and the one we want to select is vertical tabs left. We'll go ahead and close out our relationships. In our form, the first thing we want to do is click on the mountain bike catalog, and we're just going to drag it to this left section here. And notice it went ahead and dropped that in the left tab. Now what we want to do is do the same thing with inventory. I'm just going to go ahead and drop that below mountain bike catalog. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this so that I can save it as orders. We'll go ahead and click OK. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 wants us to change the database settings so it compacts automatically when closed, and then it tells us do not close the database. We want to go to the File tab here at the top. We're going to click Options on the left. We're going to go to Current Database, and what we want to check here is Compact on Close. We'll click OK, and we'll click Mark Completed. Task 5 wants us to save our mountain bike catalog table as a PDF named Catalog, and we're going to save it in our GMetrix templates folder. I want to go ahead and open up that table. We're going to go to the External Data tab here at the top, and in our Exports group, we're going to select PDF or XPS. You'll want to map to your GMetrix templates folder. We'll call the file name Catalog. We'll go ahead and click Publish, and we'll click Close. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 6 wants us to create a table named Annual Sale Results, and it's going to be linked to the Annual Sale Excel file that's located within our GMetrix templates folder. Let's go ahead and close out of this. On our External Data tab, we're going to be in the Import and Link. We're going to go ahead and click the New Data Source dropdown, look at From File, and click Excel. We'll click Browse, and we want to select our Annual Sale file. We'll click Open. And then down here in the bottom, we want to select a link to the data source by creating a link table. We'll click OK. For this, that top row is our header, so we'll leave that checked. And then we want to name this Annual Sale Results. We'll click Finish. We'll click OK. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 7 wants us to add a total row to the Q1 sales table that displays the sum of the quantity sold field. We want to go ahead and open up the Q1 sales table. We're going to go to the Home tab here at the top. In the Records group, we're going to go ahead and click Totals. And notice I went ahead and added this down here at the bottom. And then what I want to do is click here in the Quantity Sold field so that I get this drop-down box where I can put in sum. We'll go ahead and close out of this table. We'll click Mark Completed. We're in the second project called Food Exports. Task 1 wants us to modify the relationship between the Q4 sales and the shipping Q4 tables to enforce referential integrity, and it tells us to keep all other settings at default. The first thing I want to do is enable the content if that's displayed on your screen. And then we want to go to database tools. We're in the relationships group. We're going to select relationships. And then what I'm going to do just to kind of see this a little bit better is I'm going to open up these boxes. And then what I'm going to do is actually just right click on this line and click edit relationship. And the one thing it wants us to do is to enforce the referential integrity. We'll go ahead and check this box and we'll click OK. Now close out of this. Click mark completed. Task 2 wants us to split the database. It says move the tables from the current database into a new backend database created for our GMetrix folder. And we're going to name it food exports _ split. What we want to do is go back to our database tools tab here at the top. We're in the move data and we're going to click here access database. We're going to select split database. You'll want to map to your GMetrix templates folder. And then here we want to name that what's below. We'll click split. Says that our database successfully split. We'll click OK. And we'll click mark completed. Task 3 wants us to rename the specialty item prices table to catalog. I'm going to go to the right over here and click on that table. I'm going to select rename. I'm going to type in catalog. We'll click mark completed. Task 4 tells us that on the shipping Q4 table, we're going to change some of the data in there for one of the salespersons for order 11223. So let's go ahead and open up that table, shipping Q4. We're looking for order number 11223. So it's this one. And then what we'll do is we'll just delete this text and add in Kevin Cook. I hit enter to set the text. And it tells us don't close the table, so we'll leave it open. We'll click mark completed. Task 5 wants us to append all of the records from the Q2 sales Excel file, and that's going to be in our GMetrix templates folder, and it tells us to do that into Q1 sales. What I want to do is go to the external data tab here at the top. In the import and link section, I'm going to go ahead and click the new data source dropdown. We're going to do from file, Excel. We'll map to our GMetrix templates folder by clicking browse. We're going to select the Q2 sales file. In this section here, what we want to do is select append a copy of the records to the table. And we want to change this to the Q1 sales. We'll click OK. We can keep this the same. We'll click next. That's already checked for us. We'll click next. And then we'll keep the file name. We'll go ahead and click finish. And we don't need to save the steps. We'll click close. We'll click mark complete. We are looking at the third project called Dive Show. The first task tells us that we're going to add a rule to the track field of this session schedule table that ensures data contained in the field is either null or a track that is marketing, operations, or sales. And it tells us that if the value entered is anything else, it needs to display the message the track must be marketing, operations, or sales. And then it tells us to save our changes. The first thing we're going to do is click enable content if that's visible on your screen. We're going to go ahead and open up our session schedule. From here, we're going to go ahead and highlight the track field. We're going to go to the Table Tools Fields tab here at the top. And in our field validation group, we're going to go ahead and click validation dropdown. And we're going to select field validation rule. In this section, we're going to type in equals marketing or operations or sales. We'll click OK. Now we're going to go back to the field validations group, click the validation dropdown again, and we're going to select field validation message. And in this section, we're going to type this sentence here. We'll click OK. And we'll click mark completed. Task 2 wants us to add a caption location to the field called room found on our session schedules table. Let's go to the design view. So we'll change this here. We'll select room. And in our field properties, in the caption section, we're going to go ahead and type in location. We'll hit enter and we'll click mark completed. Task 3 wants us to change the field size to 3 characters for the room field. So we still have room selected. What we're looking for is field size. We're going to change that from 255 to 3. We'll hit enter to set that, and we'll click mark completed. Task 4 tells us in the session schedule table to set the default value of the registered required field to yes for all new records. What we'll want to do is click here in the registration required. In this section, we want to change our default value from no to yes. We'll hit enter to set that text, and we'll click mark completed. Task 5 wants us to create a query from the session schedule table that displays only the first session title for each title on each day. The session times should be listed as records and the days as fields. It tells us not to include row sums, and it tells us to name the query session highlights, and then it says running the query is optional. Let's go ahead and close out of this session schedule table. We'll go ahead and save the changes. We'll click yes here. We want to go to the create tab here at the top. We're going to go ahead and select Query Wizard. We're going to select Cross Tab Query Wizard. We'll click OK. We want to make sure our session schedule table is selected. It's the only one. But we do also want to check that the view is tables. We'll select Next. For this section, we want to select Time. We'll move that over. We'll click Next. For this section, we want to select Day. We'll also click Next. For our question, it tells us that we want to do Session Title, and we want to select First here. And then it also tells us not to include the row sum, so we'll uncheck this box and we'll click Next. And we want to call this query Session Highlights. And we'll click Finish. We'll click Mark Complete. We're looking at the fourth project called Computer Courses. Task 1 tells us to create a query named Enrollment Check with the criteria parameter displayed field courses, yes or no. And it tells us if the user inputs the value yes, the query should return only the records of filled courses. And then if the user inputs the value no, the query should return only the records of courses still accepting enrollments. Each record should display the enrollment full field and the following fields from the course catalog table, course ID, title, days, and time. It tells us to save our query, and it tells us running the query is optional. There's actually a lot to do in this step. Before we begin, let's go ahead and click the Enable Content if you see this on your screen. Then we're going to go to the Create tab here at the top. We're going to go to the Query Design. We'll go ahead and pull the Show Table up. It tells us that we're looking at the course catalog, so we'll go ahead and open that one, and we'll close out of this. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out so we can see everything. And the first field that we're going to look at is the Enrollment Full. We want to make sure that this right here is checked for Show. And then we're going to click in the Criteria field. We're going to go ahead and type a bracket open. We're going to go ahead and type in displayed field courses, yes or no. We're going to put that text in brackets. We'll hit enter. Now that we've typed that, what we want to do is go to the show hide group here at the top. And we want to select parameters. And in our parameter, we want to type in displayed field courses and then yes or no. The text that we put in our criteria between the brackets needs to match what's here in the parameter. For our data type, we're going to go ahead and select yes, no, and we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then what we want to do is select course ID, title, days, and time. We're going to go ahead and right click on our query, click Save, and then we want to go ahead and type in the query name Enrollment Check. We'll click OK, and we can close out of this, and we'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 tells us to rename the course catalog query to be called Credit Summary. So let's go ahead and right click on this under the query section. And what we'll select here is rename. We'll type in Credit Summary. We'll hit enter to set our text and we'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us in the instructor list query to hide the instructor course code field. So let's go ahead and open that up. We'll select this field up here and right click. And what we want to select here is hide fields. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and sort the instructor list query first by instructor name in ascending order and then courses in ascending order. It tells us to save the changes and tells us that running the query is optional. We already have the instructor list open, but let's go ahead and change this to design view. In our sort section here, you want to skip this first one and you want to go to the instructor name. We'll go ahead and click the box for ascending. And we'll do the same for courses. And then we'll go ahead and just run it. We'll close out of this. And we'll click Mark Completed. We're looking at the fifth project called Fudge Factory. Task 1 wants us to modify the production query to return only values of flavors with more than a 3 profit margin sorted from largest to smallest. Running the query is optional. Go ahead and click the enable content if that's up on your screen. And we'll go ahead and open up the fudge production query. We'll right click that and open it in design view. In the margin section, what we want to do is click descending. Our criteria is going to be greater than 3. And we can close out of this. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. Task 2 wants us to create a query that summarizes the data of the flavor popularity table by grouping the records by special ingredient and averages the popularity rating field. It tells us to format the popularity rating value as fixed with 1 decimal, and it tells us to save the query as popularity averages. Running the query is optional. We want to go to the Create tab here at the top. We're going to go ahead and click Query Design. We'll pull this up. We're going to open the flavor popularity table, and we'll click Close. And what we want for this is the special ingredient and the popularity rating. In order to group the fields, what we want to do is click Totals. And notice that the first one is Group By for special ingredient. And then for popularity rating, what we want to do is change this to average. And then we need to look at having this fixed with 1 decimal. So let's go ahead and open up our property sheet. And with the popularity rating selected, we're going to go to the format. Click that drop down and click fixed. And in our decimal places, what we want to do is just select 1. We can close out of this. We'll right click here to click save, and we'll call it popularity averages. We'll click OK, and we'll close out of this. We'll click mark completed. Task 3 tells us to create a form named fudge classes that displays the ingredient from the ingredients table and a data sheet subform named flavor that displays the flavor and popularity rating from the flavor popularity table for each special ingredient. We want to go to the Create tab here at the top. We want to go to Form Wizard. We want to change this table to ingredients, and it tells us we want the ingredient field. Then what we want to do is change the table here to flavor popularity, and we want to select flavor and popularity rating. We'll click next. We want to make sure that the ingredient is here at the top, and then flavor and popularity rating are here in this box. We do want to create this form with subforms, so we'll click next. We want the subform to be a data sheet, so we'll click next. And then it tells us that we want to change this form name to fudge classes and the subform to be called flavor. We'll go ahead and click finish, and we can close out of this. We'll click mark completed. Task 4 wants us to add a control tip to the flavor field of the flavor price sheet form. It tells us when a user adds a new flavor record, the control tip should display the prompt, enter name of new flavor to be added. Let's go ahead and open up the flavor price sheet form in design view. We'll go ahead and select the flavor field here. And what we want to do is in our tools group, select property sheet if that's not already open. We're looking for the control tip field. If you click other, it's a little bit easier to find. And what we want to do is type this text here in that field. We'll go ahead and hit enter to set our text. We can close out of that, and we can close out of this. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. We're on project 6 called computer sales. Task 1 asks us to go to the catalog build form and configure all the print margins to 0.5. It tells us to save and close the catalog build tool form. Before we begin, if this is on your screen, enable content, let's go ahead and do that. What we want to do is select the catalog build tool. We'll go to file here at the top. We'll select print. And in the print section, we want to select print preview. On the print preview tab, what you want to do is go to the page layout group, select page setup, and change the margins here from 0.25 to 0.5 for each section. When you're done, you'll click OK. And we'll close out of this form. We'll click mark completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and sort the records on the manufacturer's form alphabetically by the manufacturer name. Let's go ahead and open up the manufacturer's form. What we're going to do is put our cursor here in the manufacturer section. And then in the sort and filter group, we want to go ahead and select descending. We can close out of this, and we can click mark completed. Task 3 wants us to insert a PNG file found in our GMetrix templates folder as the background of the catalog build tool form. So let's go ahead and open that up in design view. We want to go to the format tab here at the top. And in the background group, we want to click background image dropdown. Now you might have that image here, but I'm going to go ahead and browse to my GMetrix folder just to make sure I'm inserting the right image. In that folder, I'll select laptop and click OK. We can close out of this, and I'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 wants us to construct a report based upon manufacturer's product catalog and computer sales tables. The report should list the item name, quantity sold, and quarter grouped at the highest level by the name of the manufacturer and then grouped by quarter. And that tells us to sort the results by the item name in ascending order and then the quantity sold in descending order. It tells us to apply the stepped layout and landscape, and it also tells us to name the report. Let's go to the Create tab here at the top. We're in the Reports group. We want to select Report Wizard. In our tables, the first thing we want to do is go to the Manufacturers table, and we want to select Manufacturer. We'll bring that field over. The next table that we want to select is the Product Catalog. And from here, we want to select Item Name. We'll bring that over. And then we want to look at the Computer Sales table. We're going to bring over Quarter and Quantity Sold. We'll click Next. In this part of the dialog box, it's asking us how we want to add grouping. The first level that we want is Manufacturer, so we'll go ahead and have that selected and bring that over. And then the second grouping that we want is called Quarter, so we'll bring that over. We'll go ahead and click Next. In this section, what we want to do is have the item name, it says in ascending, and then it tells us quantity sold, descending. So we'll just click here to change that. We'll click Next. It tells us that we want to apply the stepped layout. We want to change this to landscape. We'll click Next. What title do we want for this report? We're going to go ahead and call it Sales by Quarter. We'll go ahead and click Finish. And we can close out of this. We'll click Mark Completed. We're on the 7th project called Automotive. Task 1 wants us to go to the sales report, and what we're going to do is replace the data source of the control labeled Sales ID with the ID field in the Employer Sales table, and that tells us to save the report. We'll go ahead and click Enable Content so we can work on this project. And then what we want to do is right-click on Sales Report and select Design View. If you don't already have the property sheet open, you'll want to go ahead and open that. And then go ahead and select Sales ID under the Detail section. In the property sheet, what we want to do is click Data. And in our control source, we want to change Sales ID to ID. And then we'll go ahead and save this. We'll go ahead and click Mark Complete. Task 2 wants us to stay on this report. And what we're going to do is replace the text on the salesperson label with employee ID. What we're going to do is go to the page header section here and change salesperson to employee name. We'll go ahead and click Mark Complete. Task 3 wants us to stay on this report. And in the empty field located beneath the total header, we're going to add a formula that calculates the sum of parts, accessories, and services. And then it tells us to view the report. We're going to look under the total section and click this Unbound. In our property sheet, we're going to go to Control Source and we're going to click the 3 dots here. We're going to go ahead and use the expression categories here to build our function. The first part is going to be called Parts. So we'll go ahead and we'll look for that. We'll go ahead and double click here. And then what we want to do is add the plus sign. And then what we'll do is we'll double click on Accessories. And again, we'll go ahead and add the plus sign. And our last section is going to be Services. So we have Parts plus Accessories plus Services. We'll go ahead and click OK. And on our control source, we can see that that's been added. It tells us to view the report. So let's go ahead and change our view here from Design View to Report View. We'll go ahead and close out of the report. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. And Task 4 tells us to reopen that sales report. We're going to change our theme here to Organic, and it tells us to save the report. So let's go ahead and right-click on the sales report. We'll change it to Design View. On the Report Design Tools Design tab, we're going to go to the Themes group. And what we want to select here is Themes dropdown. And what we're looking for here is Organic. If you're not sure, make sure you hover over the theme so that you choose the correct one. We'll go ahead and close out of this, and we'll click Mark Completed.